It's ironic that the recent NFL playoff format change was caused due to the Washington Redskins back then, who made the playoffs on a 7-9 record and earned a home playoff game, while the 10-6 Dolphins and 8-8 Raiders missed out on the playoffs. Now this doesn't make any sense. The Dolphins and the Raiders play in a different conference, and worth mentioning, a tougher one. Yes, the main reason for the format change in the playoffs was that the 31 NFL owners saw an opportunity to make more money, and Dan Snyder saw an opportunity to steal that money from them, so they jumped on it. Going back to the irony, a change in the rules caused by an NFC least team would give the AFC West, or I think it's fair to call them the AFC Best after the arms race that went down in that division, a chance for all four teams to make the playoffs this season. Welcome back to Game Time Sloth, the slowest produced sports show on YouTube, and today we will be looking back at all the off-season moves that occurred in the AFC Best. Also, we will be trying to calculate the chances for all AFC Best teams on making the playoffs this season, even though we hope they don't. Go Broncos! First, I'm gonna start off with my Denver Broncos. The shot that was heard around the AFC Best was the Broncos trading for quarterback Russell Wilson. And no, I don't think we overpaid for him. Then we snatched edge rusher Andy Gregory from underneath the Cowboys' nose. We signed defensive lineman DJ Jones, who was a pivotal piece on that Niners defense. And we reunited offensive tackle Billy Turner with his offensive coordinator from Green Bay. We also retained Malik Reed, Andrew Beck, and Josie Jewell. Come draft day, we didn't have early picks, so we picked late in the third round. So I can't really put on a grade for our draft class this year. But hey, Crybaby Brady was the 199th overall pick, Terrell Davis was a 6th round pick, Shannon Sharp was a 7th round pick, and Chris Harris Jr. was an undrafted free agent. So we'll never know the potential of these players until they are on the field. I'll give my Broncos an A+ for this offseason simply for addressing their need at quarterback and obtaining Russell Wilson. The Las Vegas Raiders retaliated by enforcing their defense with the acquisition of Chandler Jones, then trading for wide receiver Devontae Adams and reuniting him with his best buddy and college quarterback Derek Carr. Just like the Broncos, the Raiders didn't have any picks in the early rounds of the draft, which is smart for them because the Raiders have a detailed history of botching their first-round picks. The Raiders also signed Max Crosby and Kenny Young. I'd give them an A for this offseason. You can skip this part of the video if you like because I'll be talking about the Los Angeles Chargers, and I don't believe they have much fans out there. The Chargers went defense heavy this offseason to keep up with the AFC Best's offenses. They traded for linebacker Khalil Mack, and they signed star cornerback J.C. Jackson of the Patriots. Come the draft, the Chargers opted to draft 2 offensive guards to help protect Justin Herbert. They also drafted 2 cornerbacks and 1 safety to add depth to their secondary. I'm gonna also give the Chargers an A. Finally, the Kansas City Chiefs. Apparently, the Chiefs were fast asleep when all the other teams were gearing up for battle. Signing Juju Smith-Schuster was a decent move since we thought he'd be the number 2 wide receiver behind Tyreek Hill, who to everyone's surprise was traded to the Miami Dolphins. Other than re-signing offensive tackle Orlando Brown, the Chiefs' offseason was quiet and insignificant. While they nailed all their picks in the draft and they got praises from all the Big Shot TV analysts, you might disagree with what I'm about to say. The Chiefs just might be the basement dwellers of the West this season. Losing Tyrann Mathieu in free agency to the Saints doesn't help their case either. So I'm going to give them the grade of an A-. Now let's get down to the juicy stuff. What are the actual mathematical chances for all AFC Best teams to make the playoffs this season? Our good friends at DraftKings have the odds set at 20-1, which translates to 4.76%. But those are just betting odds. Let's try and be as scientific as we can. There are 7 playoff slots to fill in a conference. Given that the divisional champs will fill out 4 of those 7 slots, we are remaining with 3 slots. Who will be taking them? It's a no-brainer that the Jets, Jaguars, Texans, and maybe the Cleveland Browns, depending on the Deshaun Watson situation, won't be making the playoffs. That leaves us with 3 AFC best teams competing with the other 5 teams in the AFC for those remaining slots. 3 and 8 are decent odds, but this math is still too basic. Let's dive in deeper. There are 272 games in an NFL season, so realistically, the number of probabilities we'll be dealing with in the simplest of math equations is 2 to the power of 272, which will generate a number of more than 80 digits, and I can't stress this enough. That's a lot of probabilities. Now, the chance of one team within a division making the playoffs is already set at a 100%. 2 teams making the playoffs is a chance of 3 in 12. 3 teams making the playoffs are 2 in 11. And all 4 teams advancing to the postseason are 1 in 10. After dividing those numbers and multiplying their averages, we are left with a 1 in 220 chance of that happening, which translates to 4.58%. This is going to sound elementary, but for a team to win, it must take its opponents to lose. Teams within a division should split the games between them and have a record of 3 and 3 each, just for the sake of simplifying the math we are dealing with here. Taking into consideration the odds of each team in the AFC to make the playoffs, and strength of schedule, which is extremely high for the AFC best, not just because they will be facing each other this season within their division, but because the AFC best will be facing the NFC West this season, adding 3 more contenders on their schedules in the Niners, Cardinals, and defending champs LA Rams, bringing the total up to 9 teams on their schedules, which are not just playoff contenders but Super Bowl contenders. Without doing the extra mind-boggling math, let's just settle at an even 2% to see the Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders make the playoffs this offseason. While doing my research and trying to wrap my head around this kind of math, I found an article which I'll be leaving down in the link below. This article will justify the math work I did here. It takes the same mathematical equations, applies them into an Excel sheet, and simulates seasons upon seasons of statistics and probabilities. Only catch here is this article is 2 years old, and all the simulation done in the article are for a 16-game season, not a 17-game season. But in the end, all the results came in almost identical, where the results in the article came in between 3.6% and 4.06%, and my roughly logical estimate was at an even 2%, I found myself happy with my findings. This is what's fun about sports. All the chances, the probabilities, the fans having faith that they would witness something historic or a miracle on any given Sunday. It may take decades or centuries for this to happen, but this year's chance for all 4 teams within one division to make the postseason are as good as any. Today's AFC best division is the greatest division in football history, and if you think otherwise, you can leave a comment down below.